And the reason why we're so late is because I'm scatty and useless. And I do apologise. So, in no particular order, other than, that's how we're laid out on the screen, you're listening to Let's Drone Out. Welcome back, everybody. And you're joined by Andrew/Frank.
Hello.
Belric/Stephen.
Hello.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
The Chris motherfucking G.
Hi.
And my darling wife back once again.
Bonjour.
I have to call up and request and check with her secretary whether she's free and available tonight. What are you drinking tonight, darling?
Tonight I'm drinking Abstract Lens from North Brewing Co. It's a double IPA, very nice strength, really nice beer from Tesco. Thank you.
And I'm your bell end of the show, Jack. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
I should give a shout out to my local brewery, Beavertown, as well. I've got their Bloody L Blood Orange IPA.
Oh, I like Beavertown stuff. They've got some nice stuff there. Actually,
They're just down the road. You can in the summer you can cycle down from my house.
They're coming in on tap in some pubs now.
Is there some sort of rule that all IPAs either have to sound like porn movies or David Lynch films?
Let's be honest.
I don't really understand.
It makes the sale, doesn't it?
Seems to.
It does. Anyway,
if you look at cider names, I think that's what they're following. The only way you could tell ciders apart when they turned was like they just all have crass names, so clearly works. Brewed in someone's bathtub, funny name.
We've got a different sort of show this week because we know for a fact that at least 2 of the people on this week have flown since the last show.
That is correct.
Because on the weekend, on Saturday, at least me and Curry went up and we watched Chris and Tony fly at Popham, which is nice to be out at a small event again and seeing some slightly crazy, slightly new, slightly odd things going on. It's nice to go out and see it. Yeah, so for people that don't know, Popham Airfield is a manned, it's a proper manned airfield with like microlights and gyrocopters and the odd yak flying in and out. It's
a real airfield.
It's a real airfield, exactly.
Proper grown-up one.
Yeah.
It is real, but it is small, but you can still get lost if you follow Frank's directions too literally. Then you end up on the building site behind some aircraft hangars wondering where you are.
Yeah.
So Tony got his X-Class in the air then. You're fighting some issues with that last time.
The issues
one or two issues this time.
The issue comes back. Same issues come back.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. But yeah, I mean, Curry saying about the building site. I mean, that building site, if you've been to Popham before and seen some drone racing or some drone flying, whether that's for the Queen's Cup back in
2016.
There you go. Says the winner of the B final, I believe.
What does the Queen fly?
Well, that was a while ago.
Or if you've been to one of the mini air shows over the past few years, you will know about the netted area that was the drone zone. When we turned up on Saturday, that wasn't the drone zone anymore. That was the building site.
It was hangars, wasn't it?
Mm.
It's a shame because everyone missed that net so much.
You're so sad not to be spending 10 minutes of every round fishing quads and things out of that netting, aren't you?
Up a huge wobbly ladder. Yeah, it was great. Now we've got a much better flying site now.
Yeah,
Good.
it was because it's now on the field sort of where we had the fixed wing stuff for the mini air show side of things. It's the model aircraft field, which is like for the manned aviation guys, it's like a permanent no-fly zone, isn't it? It's like you can't overfly this. This is always to be avoided. Don't go over here. So it's like, I think Mike at Popham was saying it's like it's probably the safest place to fly a drone that you'll find, because it's, you know, full of manned aviation around it, specifically avoiding this area. So it's
Yes.
like, it's pretty good for that kind of side of things. But that field, I mean, it felt like we were using it all for Mini Air Show. It turns out we were using none of it. Turns out it's really big. Because at the event on Saturday, we were using kind of the far section of it, probably like a third of it, half of it, and that
Yeah.
was more than enough, it seems, for the X-Class and the Wings to have a decent sized course. It wasn't a big course for them. It'd be a big course for a 5-inch course, but for the Wings and the X-Class, it seemed, as a spectator at least, to be reasonable.
Looking at the cams
Yeah.
on the wings, they all seem to be just turning all the time, so I'm guessing it was fairly tight.
Yeah,
It wasn't too bad, I don't think.
I would have liked a slightly bigger
you
course
wouldn't
for the wings.
say it was too bad, would you?
Chris is saying it's okay, but I looked at Chris's DVR and it's like it helps if you put your head round like this and then you're seeing something other than a full bank all the way around all the time.
Filming in portrait mode, that was all.
What, does anyone fly differently than that normally then? Thought this was normal.
It was the reason there was the event on, which I think Cerberus and Clive FPV have mentioned either on the show or in the chat, was the X-Class World Trials, right? World Time Trials.
Mhm.
So all the chapters of X-Class around the world on that weekend were setting out this exact course with the flags and the gates and things all the same to the millimeter, as Martin found out when he was
It
laying it out.
literally was millimeters involved.
Because Martin spent, this is Martin Rye from Fossil Stuff, spent Friday setting it all up, and having set it up, had to take certain sort of diagonal measurements and pass them back to the head X-Class people, who were checking that, you know, everything was all on the up and up. And they said, no, this is 300 millimeters out or something. You know, so they had to adjust it all to get it all just right. So it was all in compliance, and so all the tracks around the world all matching this one.
And everyone adjusted their temperature and humidity levels as well, and wind conditions.
Apart from Canada, I think Canada got weathered off. I don't know what weather they had, but it wasn't
all of it, all the weather.
It was all the weather all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was only Canada who didn't turn up and do their. But all across the world, everyone else did. So it was good. I mean, I drove up through rain and I was like, "Oh my god, this is horrendous."
Did you get around the course okay?
Yeah, it was good when we got there and got going and it dried out and the sun come out. It was actually quite warm. We were all in t-shirts by about 10:30, 11. So it was
cheered
warm
up
and
miraculously,
sunny.
didn't it?
Yeah,
It was really nice.
So tell us about your X-Class then. Is this the kind of passion project you've been working with for ages, and it seems to want to misbehave all the time? What went wrong this time?
Well, to be fair, it's a 3-year-old design. It was one of Martin's first sort of designs, so it's not the current model. Plus, Martin's working on another one as well at the moment, which, if you've seen Curry Kitten's video, you've had a look at it.
For those that hasn't, this is like a stretched X-Class, if you will.
It is a stretched X, yeah. That's our next look into the X-Class stuff.
So you think it's a frame problem that's just had a couple too many knocks?
Mine definitely, because it's 3 years old. It's been, well, it's landed roughly. I wouldn't say crashed. I don't want to say crashed. Landed roughly a few times. No, it has crashed. It's crashed a lot, and then last weekend I had a big carbon fire on it, so it's very, very weak now. So the whole thing needs changing. But it's 3 years old anyway. I mean, it needed doing. So
You've taken it out and done a lot of demos at various events, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been demoed across the country for the last 3 years, and so it's done well. It's done all right. It just gave up the ghost on the weekend. Mind you, it was very nice to have Greg from Menace RC there helping me take it apart and put it back together, and he was very helpful. So thanks, Greg, for that. But then I think we electrified the whole carbon.
Bloody hell.
Something happened, something bad.
Dramatic.
There was a lot of smoke. We assumed, because Tony just knelt down and plugged it in. There was a big puff of smoke, and everyone was like, "Oh no, that's not dead." And about 5 minutes later, up and flying again.
for about 3 laps, and then she caught fire. The carbon caught fire. The XD90 melted. That melted, which was a first, and the earth, or I think it was the earth cable, melted, come out, and then welded itself to the carbon plate, and that's when it fell out of the sky.
That sounds terrifying all round.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really quite hard to set fire to carbon, isn't it?
No, not if you have.
I remember doing it at school.
If you
I used to
directly-
get the power supplies and put them through bits of pencil lead. That's just graphite. It goes up white hot.
No, it was
All good fun.
it was alright. But yeah, I got some laps in anyway. It wasn't all.
How
on the
did you do
workbench.
in terms of your lap times compared to everybody else? Because I heard you talking about like the Australians were doing well, but they got 14S. It was the S race.
Not
How
very
many S's
well,
did you
really. They would do it. I think. What did I do? 6 laps, 2 minutes, and they were doing 5 laps, 50 seconds. I think, or something ridiculous.
Bloody hell.
Just
pretty
so
quick.
fast. But I've just found out that the winner overall was flying the right sized frame, but he was flying 5-inch gear on it. So he flew a 5-inch prop, but on a big frame.
He flew a 5-inch prop on an X class.
Well,
is this the one where you put the 2 motors down each arm?
I think that's
And a
what
5-inch.
they've done. I haven't seen it or heard
Right.
it, but I've watched the video footage, and he was doing 7.5 seconds a lap.
Does that let you turn
Wow.
quicker then? Because you've got less inertia in the prop.
Well, this is the thing. I think there's going to be some changes in X Class.
Is that
Yeah.
legal, or could he
From
just
that.
not afford the motors and thought,
No,
I've got a couple of
he-
flight
Props are
expenses
bloody
on each
expensive
arm.
as well, aren't they?
It's
They're
about
very
size. It's about size. So you can literally just have the right size, but do you want? But
because
I mean-
the requirement is that it's got to be a frame that's 800 to 1200 millimeters motor to
Yeah.
motor, right? That is the
That is it.
definition of X class.
but
But that's
For
it. There's
me-
nothing about the motors, how many motors, the prop size,
No.
or anything like that. That's all.
no, but I
open.
think it will change now, because most of us are swinging 13-inch props, and it takes a few seconds to get them spinning, and
Yeah.
a 5-inch would take milliseconds to get.
So when you go
going.
through a gate and you want to yaw viciously to one side, it's taken a while for the motor to
and it
slow
takes-
that down.
It does. It takes a while to get going, and unless you're on.
The other
full
thing is, it
ES.
would be really boring to watch with 5-inch props because you won't have the super noise of the.
Well, you've still got a
going
massive
through.
frame, haven't you? At least you can see it, I suppose.
You can see it.
can see
I
it.
presume you can see it. I mean, I did see it on the replay. I've seen what I've seen of it, but I'm sure the X-Class guys, most of them, are going to want changes after what happens.
Well, I remember seeing a couple of years ago, looking at X class, that people felt that's why they created the Beast class, because the electronics on the X class frame weren't really as large as the frame could cope with. They were actually something that would work on a much smaller frame, and so people started doing this Beast class, like a compressed frame with the same electronics. So it sounds like that those really high-end electronics haven't really advanced a ton. You're stuck with 13-inch props, but the frame can handle much
I don't
larger
know. I
props
think,
theoretically.
yeah, I reckon it would be nicer to have larger props. To be honest, I mean, it will slow it down a bit and stuff and change
Sound
things.
cool,
But
That's
yeah, I
what you're
mean, the
going for.
13-inch props still look quite small on my X class, so it would be
Am I
cool
right
to
in
sling some
thinking that
15s.
you're on beta flight 3.5 on
Yeah,
X classes?
old firmware works best. Well,
Why do you
for
think
me,
that
For
is?
me, it does. I don't. I have no idea.
Interesting.
It just
Curry was
does,
saying that
does
seems
for
to be a
me.
trend. It's not just Tony, but lots of people are running it because it's a bit of a
Martin
swine
said
to
there were a
tune.
few guys running 4.2, but it seemed everything's like. That's the thing is with Betaflight, you put it on a 5-inch cord, it's just going to fly. As soon as you get out of that zone, especially very big or very small, it starts getting more difficult, especially on very.
You've
big.
got to not just tune, but tune really dramatically.
Yeah.
Who's got time for that? I
No.
just want to plug in and go.
More worried about shorting on your frame and things than tuning.
Yes. We've got frames to set alight here. We haven't got time to tune.
Well, what I would say is how well the X class worked with the wings. I think they went to work together really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
They just seemed to work. Especially it was like a first ever go wing racing and having the X class at the same time. It was really good.
I've got a little time lapse video as well of showing how it all kind of worked together. It's on an absolute potato, but I'll play it anyway because I've got some audio on it, so you can actually hear what some of these races were sounding like.
Is that audio sped up as well? Frank's muted. Everyone's muted, by the way.
Mind.
We're all muted. Please
Yeah, I don't know how then.
insert
Frank.
porno music here.
Frank
For the
did not
audio
unmute
podcast.
himself, and I couldn't unmute him because he
Yeah.
chose to mute himself.
Well, no, I didn't
tried.
realize it mutes everyone when you start playing a video. Oh well, never mind. As I was saying, so there's 3 rounds of wing racing with the inflatable gate up, and then the inflatable gate would come down because it didn't really quite fit for X class racing, and then there was a round of X class racing, and then another 3 heats of the wing racing, and that was kind of the cycle that it went in over the day, and it was quite fun to watch. Me and Curry were there for most of the racing there. I hung around and Curry had to run away, didn't you, Curry? But
Was
Oh,
there
I
concern
found it
the X
very
class would just
exciting.
shred the gate, the inflatable one?
Martin did manage to take out one of the proper gates, I think, by smacking into it. But yeah, I think he would have completely killed the inflatable one. I think that one of the most exciting things about watching wing racing, aside from the fact that you can see what's happening, unlike 5 inches, is the danger. There's a bit of a net to protect the pilots for some reason, but everywhere else is like uncovered. So you could feel like you could get hit by a plane, which is fun. But at the end of the day, it's just a plane. That's why we position ourselves by the inflatable gate, because we knew it's like if there's going to be crashes, they're all going to crash here, aren't they? And sure enough, they did. And we had some people sort of coming over our heads occasionally, where people got slightly off centre and stuff. But it was all it all felt very safe, but kind of semi-dangerous, I'd say, because at the end of the day, it's just wings.
Just foam on the front and prop on the back.
Bit of foam, not going to hurt many people. much.
No.
Bit maybe when the battery flies out and kills someone, but aside from that, all good.
I find that the only time you hurt anyone with a wing is when they're chucking it. Personally,
Yes.
sorry, Magical Pencil. Sorry,
And that-
Tony.
The launching
Thanks.
was a bit of a challenge on the day, wasn't it? It seemed to be.
Well, I
Only
stood
Tony
in for
got it wrong.
someone. I stood in for someone on my launch, so I was busy doing something. They were calling over the, over the mic. Someone needs to come and spot. So I was like, "Oh, I'll spot." Didn't think I'd have to bloody launch the plane, did I? I just was like, "Yeah, I'll spot. I'll stand here and count your laps." Or
Can't you
whatever,
just?
and
I don't know. Maybe I'm being a quad noob. Can't you just slingshot them or something? Just isn't there a better way than relying on someone to sort of hurl it and then run away?
You can
a
have
lot
a
of setup, though,
catapult,
isn't it?
but yeah.
It would have probably been better for the guy who I threw into the ground 2 times to have a catapult, to be fair.
Yeah, by the time Tony had finished with it, there was significantly
There
less
was
planes.
bits flying off every time
Yeah,
I threw it.
after you launched it the first time,
It's
I saw you
flying
just
everywhere.
like, we don't need that bit. Wasn't that his winglet or something? You're just like, we
I
don't
ripped
need that.
off
And
'cause
just
it
throw
was
it again.
dangling.
Just
I
slowing
was
you down,
thinking,
mate. Slowing you
thinking
down.
about that. Let's get some weight off this.
I was surprised that no one's wings actually went into each other because they were all launched at the same time. There was no staggered launching,
No.
but it all seemed to work very well. I thought so. Yeah,
There's definitely
pleasantly
a couple of
surprised.
seconds when it looks like uncontrolled chaos with wing launches. You're like, it's technically in the air, but does he know where it's going or have any
Yeah.
real control?
Yeah, when
And
the one
nobody
that
went
Tony
into
had
those
finished,
trees either.
when the one that Tony had finished with was successfully launched, it did. Everyone ducked for quite a bit after that. It was going a bit haywire.
No comment.
But yeah, the launching process, I was confused about how that was going to work, but it seemed like it was a good process in the end. So the spotters launched it, and then you had quite a fun little game mechanic of the starting the race, didn't you?
I think it was like 10 seconds of loitering, wasn't it? And then you'd get beeps and then rush to the gate.
There was a lot of strategy involved in that. I was sort of finding out throughout the day because you could either take the strategy of loitering as close and as tight a circles to the start gate as you could, so then you'd be the first one through it, or else you'd loiter higher up, further away, higher throttle, and then when the beeps went off, you could really dive down into it and get a lot of momentum as you started through the gate. So it's quite an interesting start.
What did you end up doing then? What was the winning stratagem in the end?
Somewhere in between. Like you need a bit of altitude, and you want to be sort of midway from the gate, so round about the end of the course, but not all the way down the field. So just so then you can dive into it at full throttle, I found worked really well.
Nice.
They might get to a point where everyone's just doing that and diving for it right at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'll see how many wings can fit through one gate, but it seemed to work on the day.
Do they give you like a countdown so you can prepare for it and position yourself, get ready to bomb down there?
Yeah, there was beepers. There was like was it 5 beeps for you guys?
5 beeps, yeah. Just
5
you didn't
beeps
quite
and then
know
like,
when those 5 beeps were going to start, and you
Right.
could be quite far away from the gate at the time. So
That's what I'm wondering. Do they give you like a 30-second call, or it's just beep, 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 go?
Yeah,
it's
pretty much.
5 beeps and then a higher beep, and that's when you can go through the gate.
Yeah, there
Chris,
was
so-
definitely sort of a mix of the people hanging around the gate to begin with, and the people like, oh no, I've got there too early. I'm gonna have to go around again and wait for the rest of the beep to finish.
Yeah.
But you seem to be pretty spot on timing that one quite well.
Yeah, to start with, there was one round where the beeper went off when I was still miles away from it, and I was just diving full throttle towards it. I still somehow managed to get 11 laps in, so that wasn't too bad.
Did you still use the single LiPo for the entire day, Chris? Because you said you weren't dropping below sort of 16 volts at the end of a
Yeah.
race. You just topped it back up again every time.
Yeah, it wasn't even a LiPo, it was an 18650 pack that I bought. Yeah.
So what kind of battery? Because quad pilots all time it so that they've got just enough battery to get round, and then it's pretty much almost killing the LiPo at the end. What kind of cell did you use?
It's a 4S 1P, and they're these. I can't remember what the brand of the cell is, but they'll legit do 35 amp, and they're 18650s. The green
a Molly
ones.
cell or something?
No,
Or
it's
Samsung?
it's not Samsung. I've got some Samsung ones as well, but it's like the Sony Varta ones, but not. It's like a similar but different make. But they're out of brushless Hoovers, so they'll legit do like 35 amp. So yeah, only dipped. It was 4S. Only dipped to about 16 volts, and I just kept on putting it on charge after every round. Just didn't even take it out the plane.
Been faster with less battery. You could have gone even faster.
Yeah. I was considering putting a higher pitch prop on about halfway through the day because I was just pinned at full throttle by that point going around, and I just needed some more speed. But that plane will do about 80 mile an hour. It's quite a draggy airframe, actually, but the handling is fantastic. Like, you can just put it exactly where you want it to go, and as soon as you come off the throttle, then it will slow down really quick as well. So that's what you need when you're going around these courses. You don't
Is
have
that a custom build or is that a standard wing?
No, I'll show you. One sec.
Get into the deets.
Yeah.
How do you win a wing race?
It's proper old school and pretty beaten up.
There's a lot of tape there. I see tape.
There's more tape than plane, really, but it's a Park Zone Striker, but from back in the day.
Wow.
You can see that. Yeah, just lots of tape, lots of foliage got in it as well. The nose came off quite a few times on landing. I didn't crash, but every time I landed,
the cameras had to be reattached, I'm guessing, a few times.
No, the camera was fine.
It stayed on. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think simple is effective. It seems with wing racing. There's no flight controller or anything in it. It's just the simpler and better handling you can get it seems to be the best.
Just a simple FR Sky or something receiver.
Spectrum.
Wow. Okay.
You made
Made it all the way round.
Yeah, no fail safes. Well, no full fail safes anyway.
A little wobble here and there.
There was actually one round where I was banked at 90 degrees and it just momentarily went straight and then started turning again. I was like, oh, I got to reorient my antenna for the next round.
Oops. Yeah.
But no, it was all good.
It was an oval, basically an oval course. So it had the inflatable gate at one end and sort of flags around it to hold out the oval. But it seemed like you had it absolutely dialed in your line around there. Quite a few other pilots were sort of speeding round and then slowing right down and lining themselves up and taking a bit of a straight line through the gate. But you seem to have it pretty dialed in.
Yeah, I've flown that plane for since I was a teenager, actually. So I'm extremely familiar with it. It's gone through quite a few incarnations. But yeah, you just need
sellotapes wrapping.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just need to fly a plane that gives you confidence. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
It was definitely interesting watching some of the reactions from the others because it's kind of like they were coming along, especially at the start because it was the big dive, and it was we're not going to make it. We got to pull out, and there's just carnage. Often the case into that very first lap. A lot of bounces off the ground. Either people were going too high. So you saw a lot of sort of go-arounds where they missed it, they couldn't get down. And then if people thought, I'm too late, I'm trying to force it, then they just hit the deck.
Yeah.
And they had that really nice smash against the inflatable one we saw, didn't we? That was quite cool.
Some good noises where it just goes boing. bounces off this inflatable gate.
And
Yeah.
some really interesting people that got away with stuff, like they managed to hit the guide rope and you'd see the wing flip over like a couple of times and then recover and carry on. It's like, well, that doesn't normally happen. That's amazing.
That might be an advantage of having a flight controller, to be fair.
It was
Probably wouldn't have
weird,
got
though.
away with that.
You could definitely see that these were people's sort of daily builds. When I'm looking in the DVR and I was like it's waiting for satellites. Your iNav configuration still waiting. I saw yours was literally just your voltage from the camera, wasn't it? So you could just see what you had. It's like, round we go.
That's just the camera's OSD. There's nothing else on there.
Just servos.
My spotter, when he was chucking it, he said, "Oh God, that's light," because there's no fiberglassing or anything on it, no laminate or anything like that. Yeah, I mean that's good for straight line speed, and if we had a bigger course, but I think just bare foam was the way to go on the day for this particular course.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to use my Nano Goblin as a primary plane, and this was going to be a secondary, but I flew it after work the night before because I haven't flown either of them for ages, and this one was so just locked on rails. I was like, no, I'm using this one.
Good choice.
Cool.
And there was a Nano Goblin there, I think.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah,
I think that was flying on a single 18650. He was out for a Sunday cruise.
that was actually a 3S 18650. But
Was it a 3S? Because it
was.
wasn't.
It was quite
wasn't too
heavy.
quick.
It was, and he had to watch the amps as well. He was saying.
Oh yeah, he said he couldn't go full throttle because the battery couldn't handle it. Maybe that's why it was cruisy.
And he's
the one I was having to watch in my
1850s.
goggles, which I sadly didn't record. He was like locked on. He was coming into the inflatable target, and he's lined up straight on the top. And from like 100 meters out, he was it's like a magnet. It got caught, and he was like, he's going for the top, he's bang, and he just hit it from such a distance out. It's like there's just as soon as you get locked in, that's it.
Yeah, I had to help retrieve that one out of a tree at the end of the day. That was a hard one. That was a really hard one to get out because we were standing, we were just going through thorn bushes in those woods, and I was kind of afraid that it had gone into the neighbour's property because we had a bit of a grumpy neighbour that way. Because I saw on my video feed that it went onto the roof of their property, and then the feed just cut out, and I was like, oh no, here we go. But it turned out it had actually bounced off and into the tree on our side. So so that was good. But actually then locating it and getting it down was incredibly difficult because the beeper was going off and we were arming it, just like wading through all these thorn bushes, but we couldn't see it at all. And it was like right above us. We couldn't see it at all. And I had to end up climbing halfway up a tree in thorns. And finally I could see it, and we got a 2-meter pole and eventually poked it out. So yeah, that was good.
All good fun.
There's a bit in the chat about Numbskull saw on the stream that one went in the netting, and KO FPV in the chat said, "Yeah, that was me that made it through the net."
Determination.
He says the flag behind race control confused him for a second on that lap.
Yeah, that was. I was flying in that heat, and I just heard this massive impact. And then after the heat, just took my goggles off and saw there was now a massive hole in the net. And I was like, oh, okay. Right where I was standing. Did pretty well there.
You were
Luckily,
doing
they're
too
all
well.
precious.
You saw only one way to stop you from getting any further ahead. Take you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
People suggesting we should have a figure 8 to challenge people a bit more, because obviously there's not enough risk of collisions just going through gates close to each other. What you want to do is cross them over in the middle of the track.
Yes, I agree.
I think maybe we need to get a few more people reliably making it round the course and finishing the race. But it would be quite good to see, the next step to be a figure 8 where there's a crossover and all the carnage.
We did discuss it actually.
Work your way up to dive gates.
If it was a single thing for a figure eight. That would be too like risking it. But I think Frank suggested we could have like a 2-tier one. So if you're going that way, you go underneath, and you go in that way, you go on top. Then in
When you
theory,
say
no one
that,
should
but-
hit each other.
Out of 10, how many times is that going to happen?
Oh, like 1 or 2, but that's part of the fun. It is amazing. I didn't see any mid-airs on the day, and which is weird because we only have to fly together with like 4 or 5 people, and you will literally ram another plane by accident. And the fact you're all in that sort of close proximity and no one hit each other, unless I missed it, is pretty amazing. I saw people got quite close. There was some really occasional, really nice competitive stuff, and it was a shame that the heats weren't mixed up between the people because you might have had a little bit more competition from like Stubbsy in one of the other races. I think that would have been good to fly as well, just to see everyone mix it up a bit in the heats.
It sounds like there's some good ideas. Will there be another race, do you think?
It was a first go, so it was.
It was good for what we had.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to have seen it. Like, finally, after years of it being talked about,
Been talked about a long time.
We've had attempts at quite a few mini air shows. Basically, every mini air show we've sort of started putting it together, and it just hasn't quite happened. But to have it there and timed, and it was good fun to watch. All seemed to work well with the lap RF system. I hear there was a bit of consternation at the beginning of the day, convincing everyone that actually 25 milliwatts is fine and it'll be okay, and you don't need a watt to get a third of the way across the field. But
it's just the antennas you're using, because you're not normally banking a quad so much. Like when you're coming around 90 degrees and you've got the null of your antenna facing you, that's the issue. So if you can overcome that, then 25 is fine. Certainly for that area.
Yeah. It was very good though. I liked seeing all the wings flying and all the different shapes and sizes. It was cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Tony. The X-Class and the wings go well together, and the fact they can use the same sort of track, and they're both quite spectator-friendly sports compared to regular quad racing.
How many wing races did you get attending? What's the count?
It was 7, wasn't it? Something like that.
I thought it was 3 heats of 3.
I thought there were 3 heats of 3, so I thought there was at least 9.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, must have been. Well, I think the last time I saw it on IFPV it was, and people were all signing up at the last minute. There was only 5 people when I signed up, but it was good. And they came from far and wide as well.
It was very nice as well that it was very friendly. It's like, it's not a spec wing class. It's like, bring something that flies. You can fly it around, which is cool.
That's important,
because,
isn't it?
it's good just to get a bit of practice at flying around a lap if you haven't done it before.
This is another thing I think as well. There is a lot of talk about spec class, especially in wings, but I think that kind of takes away something from it, because everyone's flying around exactly the same thing then. And I get the argument then, it's all about pilot skill. But I think half of the fun of racing for racers and spectators alike is to see like people's creations, really. I think that's like half the reason why we're in this hobby. So, I think we should keep it as open as we can, personally.
It sounds like the simple nature may have been friendly to pilots as well. I just saw the comment from Kay of FPV saying that he did an organised race in Wales with no timing, and the course was 1.2k long round a valley, which would have been a lot more challenging if you screwed up halfway around the course.
A lot more challenging on 25 milliwatts, probably.
No turtle mode.
No. Which tree did it even end up in? You just,
I saw quite a few people at the race that they'd end up not crashing into a gate, but like just going into the ground. And obviously you can't then just bounce off the ground and fly again like with a quad. So I think there's some scope there for redesigning wings with some skid plates or something.
Maybe
to keep
following
the prop clear.
Frank's design, more of a VTOL. Just get a wing, put 4 motors on it, and just it's fine. It's technically a quad, but it's on a wing. You can just turtle your way out of trouble.
Yeah. Has anyone seen that quad that's just come out? I think Joshua Bardwell did a video on it.
Oh yeah,
What's it called?
the clip-on wings.
Yeah, I think we'll see more stuff like that coming out. Hopefully.
If you want to make those tight turns, it's going to help, isn't it? Bit of differential thrust.
I think people coming from the quad world get put off by what they've seen with the waggling that goes on when you're flying in wind. We were lucky we didn't have much wind on the day, but there's, I think, ways and means you can overcome that.
That's the one
Usually
thing
the wingtips, unless Tony rips them off.
Yeah.
The one thing I
just
used to
make it
hate
really
is
heavy.
Well, that's the thing. If you've got a VTOL, you don't need to go screwing around. You don't need to give your plane to the guy who's having a beer over there. You can just let him carry on drinking, and then just take off from the ground by yourself with mine.
Yeah, perfect.
I was definitely a tosser that day. Not a very good one.
Has anyone seen any racing wing type simulators yet? Is that a thing?
There was.
I think
People talk about one sim in particular for wings, don't
There's one
they?
called Wings. I think Painless covered it. Was it called Wings? Which was about a sort of wing
Is
simulation.
it Free Flight or something flight?
Cerberus would like to point out that there was no beer at the event for entirely legal reasons. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad Cerberus is in the chat. I think he did a very good job of putting together basically two brand new styles of racing. I mean, I don't think we've had a timed. I mean, we might have had a timed X-Class race, but not with basically, more than a couple of people, right, Tony? I don't think in the UK.
The barrier to entry on X-Class is a bit high, isn't it?
So to put the X-Class racing together and dial that format in, and to have the wing racing and to dial that format in, and brought sort of a load of wing wangers, as he was putting it, sort of
Very
up to
hard
speed
to say
with the race kind of how a race event works.
Saying that really fast, Frank.
Wing wangers.
Wing wangers.
That should be the technical term, like the official term. I'm going to tell the BDRA straight away.
Whatever definition.
It'd be an official thing, like golfers
Each racer
have
will
caddies,
require one.
wing racers
one
have their
wing
own
wanger.
wing wangers. It's a specialised field.
You can't fight against it. It's like trying to fight against the media saying drone. It's just going to go that way.
Just got to accept it and go with it, and adopt the word. Yeah, take control of it. You mentioned the BDRA, and you've got the BDRA T-shirt on.
Yes, I do.
You were at the BDRA National Championships as well a couple of weeks ago, weren't you?
I did, yes. Up at Buckminster. Great flying site they got up there. Not jealous at all.
Because it's an enormous field that's got a really sort of well manicured. They've got a lot of volunteers there, all taking nice care of the whole space. It's very big, well mown, and all that kind of thing. And it's also in the middle of nowhere. It's
you can say that again.
Yeah, getting there is a bit of a trick, but once you found it, but it is very far in the middle of nowhere. But it does occasionally have the Rolls-Royce Spitfire doing a display just off-site, which is also quite fun to watch.
It's the second time I'd been up there for the championships. The first time it was like typhoon weather, and that wasn't so fun. The marquee just got completely destroyed the first time in the first night. But yeah, it was lovely up there. Weekend before last.
But yeah, and you ended up, getting your final position 4 points or 4 positions higher than you qualified, right?
Yeah, I like how you spun that.
Why? Especially for not having practiced. You were saying that you hadn't been doing any training recently.
Yeah, no, I'm flying such big drones these days that I think it's getting me out of practice for racing. I'm flying them all like a bus. Need to readjust a bit.
What's your day-to-day sort of regular flyer then?
My own one. It's QAVX.
What size is that?
Oh, a 250. Yeah, the QAVX frame. Oh, you mean my one or?
Yeah,
well, you said you're flying such big drones that you.
Talking about big ones.
Oh,
not
yeah.
little ones.
Yeah, at work. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Those are quite large.
Yeah,
Sort of
Chris was,
Jetson size things.
Yeah, Chris was showing some photos around, and we were all like, "Oh," and then just sort of look at the X class, like, "Well, that's just a toy."
Tiny.
Ones that are in the public domain, I hasten to add.
Yeah.
So these are giant camera rigs and equipment rigs.
Oh no.
They're for payload delivery.
Right.
And yeah, like we've delivered med kits with them, and lunch.
What's the biggest payload one? Just to give us a sense of scale.
We're talking 50 kilos, 100 kilos.
Biggest one is 180 kilos at the moment.
And that's payload, right?
Yeah, that's just the payload.
To put it in perspective, that's like 4 Tonys.
Can you fly that? Could you fly me? That's cool. I'm volunteering now.
We'll fly any of us, maybe even 2 of us.
We could fly 2 of you. Yeah.
Excellent.
I would personally pay to strap Tony to a drone. I know many others would. We'd all like to see that.
If I was assured of the software quality, I'd strap myself to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
you've got like X8s and stuff like that with motor and prop redundancy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the X8 configuration is quite nice. It lacks a bit of efficiency, but it's
when you get
definitely...
stupid big, do you get more exotic configurations as well?
Tend to stick with the X8 for practicality, really.
Ease of engineering.
Yeah, and like you can fold it up for transport more easily. You only have to have 4 arms still, so it's quite good.
Nice.
And besides your work, I mean, you've been doing a lot of sort of volunteering with Drone Zone at Popham, kind of making those events happen.
Yeah, ever since the Queen's Cup. Been pretty busy recently, so I haven't been able to get down there that much. So it was nice to get down for the wing race for sure. But yeah, we got a hardcore of members, and they come along usually twice a month. Have a nice FPV day, and they're members of the line of sight club by definition at the same time, so they can come down and fly line of sight whenever they want to. We also do training courses at Popham as well for recreational drones. So if you know anyone who's interested, send them our way.
Because you've put together like a little FPV racing training course, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah. We've had. I mean, it's slowed down quite a bit because of COVID, but it's picking up again now. So get down there and train newbies as and when we can.
With the old netted drone zone going, is it just you set up a course in that field and go around there when it's the FPV day? Yeah,
well, it's not netted anymore. It is permanently in that same area that we were flying the wings in now, because it's up the end of the fixed wing flying field. So we're kind of out their way, and it's just more room to fly. Yeah, cool. Nobody liked the net.
No.
We had a comment from Cerberus again asking about the hanging X-class collision. Something to investigate there?
I've got another recording.
Frank's
I'll try and see if we can unmute
and...
everyone when I press play on this. Yeah, I was in photo mode, so it's a bit of a slideshow, but I do have the audio recording, so there is that.
If
you'll be able to hear it.
You may need to unmute yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's give this a go.
This looks very exciting.
That was me first, and then that was Martin.
Wow! Boom.
That was loud.
Oh, that's worth a replay.
Oh,
Let's
that's
just
nice.
go back over that.
But
Catch that
then-
moment again.
Oh,
that was
no.
hanging in the gate.
Oh,
Oh,
It wanted to
Nice.
free its brother.
Yeah, Ralph was hanging in the hanging in the air, and Clive hit him at full chat.
oh.
So there wasn't an X class that,
That-
didn't
that
get
looks so
disabled
bad.
at some point during the day and had to be fixed.
Well, all of them needed repairing at some point.
Just how much is a prop on one of those things?
It was
A single prop.
well, the props I fly are 50 quid for 4.
So that's £12 a prop for a single
I
prop.
think they're a little bit cheaper if you
Jeez.
get different ones, but yeah, the ones I fly are.
Well, I mean, I've looked at because I was interested in the America macro, and so I looked at the cost of the 9-inch props, and I thought those were stupid, but yeah, it's another league.
Yeah.
I mean,
And now,
when the props are more than a tenner each, I'd be very worried about just arming
I
the
think
thing.
I think they're about a tenner now.
do you,
It's not the props you have to
Steve?
worry about, it's buying the ESCs and the motors.
That's the most
Yeah.
expensive.
Sounds like the arm's the only cheap part of it.
Steve, do you still need 9-inch props? Because I have got a few.
No, I thought about buying it, and then I just looked at it. It seemed like the props were some kind of older nylon ones, and gave the impression that they kind of explode, and that they're
Yeah, they
rather
do.
pricey. So I decided maybe I would just look at building a 7-inch instead, when the props are all nice cheapo polycarbonate, and everything is just a bit easier to find.
I like. Can someone put Wookiees Wookiees chat up?
Wookie says, I'm staying away from X-Class. I like being able to pay my heating bill.
Spendy.
I quite like that.
The noise when Clive hit was unbelievable. Like that
Yeah.
was.
That was
To
quite
be
a thud.
fair, Clive's quad survived quite an impact there.
Yeah,
think
Clive's
through that
came off
gate though,
pretty
didn't it?
much
Came off very
untouched,
well.
it looked like.
Mm,
It was Ralph's that ended up in pieces, just obliterated with
It
like
was
I hear the
bits
flight controller
flying
was kind
everywhere.
of Pringle shaped.
Really? Fucking hell.
That's the problem Martin had with his flight controller when he crashed.
There's
his
so much
flight
weight in
controller
those, isn't there? The batteries are going to be a couple of kilos, I'd have thought.
Yeah, batteries are
Maybe.
basically a house brick.
It's a lot of mass to come to a halt.
Well, the all up weight of the entire thing is obviously under 3.5 kilos, right?
Oh, definitely, they all were.
So it's sub 250 I hear, actually, most of them.
250 kilos, maybe.
Did I say brick? I meant breeze block.
That is weird though, because you can have like 5-inch racing, they'll crash all day, you won't get flight controllers damaged, and we had 2 out of 4 on that day go. There's
But
got
if
to be
you're
something
stopping a
about
couple of
forces
kilos
involved there.
dead, that's a lot of energy, isn't it?
Yeah. Lot,
My
hell of a lot.
flight controller was on the outside and has survived 3 years. So
Say
weird.
it survived.
Or has it?
Occasionally it just
I
gives
mean-
up and says no more.
No, the flight controller's fine. It's the other bits give up and pop
It's
out.
That was
mainly
the one-
terminal block.
The one
Yeah.
full, I was all set up to film. I was like, Tony's going to fly here. I'll film Tony because Tony's pretty good at getting around a course. I had the DVR going. I had it going on my camera. He took off and then fell back down. And that was the end of the flight because it just let go.
It did. Was that
That's
after
what needed fixing.
me and Greg put it back together?
I think that was the first
was
time
before,
you
wasn't
and Greg
it?
put
Yeah.
it back together. He said it was the connector through the ESCs into the flight control or something. It wasn't supplying power or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah, to
block.
restrip it
Well, I
and
don't have a
connect it.
PDB in that old beast because it's so old. Like it was a prototype, that thing. It was like 3 years old, so it was just like literally let's bung it together and fly and see if it works type thing. And that's what me and Martin did. It was just like no PDB in there at all. It's like big connecting blocks
Is that-
put in there.
What current rating are the
House-style electrics.
ESCs in X class?
Mostly 120.
Is anyone
No.
else making ESCs in that category? Because it seemed APD had it stitched up, and there
It's
wasn't
just
really any competition.
It's just APD, I think. I mean, mine aren't APD. I think mine are only 80 amp. I can't even remember the name of them.
So I wonder
but
if
they've lasted
that's keeping the
3
price up.
years, but
Hmm.
they definitely need to upgrade to go faster. Especially after seeing 14S.
If you go up to 14S, can you lower the amps a bit and make everything a little bit cheaper on the ESC front, or is it still crazy?
It's still quite dear. I think 1 PDB and 4 ESCs are talking 500 quid.
I'm interested to know where the 14S comes from, because it's not like you can buy 14S battery,
No,
and it's not like you see
it was
7S
made.
batteries.
12 is obvious, right? But 14, like,
Yeah,
I expect someone to go up to 18 or 16.
12 is
But
what they normally do, but the
Are
one in
people
Texas
taking
on
batteries
14.
apart and basically making up loads
Yeah.
of cells
Yeah,
together?
basically.
It's just like
I'm
turning
sure
the
we'll see
dial up to
18S
11,
sooner or
right?
later.
Yeah, exactly. Just turn it.
What
You've
battery
already-
connectors do you have on your X, or to go on X?
XT90, he
as
said,
well?
didn't he?
90s, and I won't do it again
With-
because mine
with-
melted.
Yeah,
Need
90, but
more.
you've got spark suppression on them. They're like special ones, aren't they?
They weren't that special. It melted.
the
And
custom
melted the
shipped ones
carbon.
now.
It melted carbon.
People will fuse out
I was-
XT60s on 5 inches as
I
well.
was the
I mean,
first welder in the air. I was literally welding and flying.
Mid-air
at the
welding,
same
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Beat that.
I've seen some people with their separate positive and negative plugs. And they've just got big
Yeah, it's
chunky
called
plugs
Chris
in each
G.
thing.
before
Yeah, I
he
was going to say,
before
Chris
he,
G, the man to ask
adopted
about
it. Yeah.
battery connectors.
Animal. Absolutely.
Giant
I remember when I
batteries.
first met him.
Have
What
you
does one do?
completely? Have you converted everything over to XT60 yet?
Well, not exactly.
Oh, here we go. Animal. Absolute animal.
What is that? That's
It's some
Bullet
kind of
connectors.
connector.
that's just
So it's
He
just
some kind of
He
connect.
won on this.
Are those
ladies and
bloody
gentlemen.
banana
can't
plugs?
even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've got banana
4 mil,
plugs.
4 mil gold connectors. So you can totally just short the battery out if you want to.
That's
Just
how
plug in
you
a
do it,
loudspeaker
ladies
while
and
you're at
gentlemen.
it. It's all good.
So it keeps you alert, you know.
See Chris
I
literally
like it.
hot wiring his own planes, just
Keep it
twisting
on the
wires
edge.
together.
You want to light
Yeah,
light your ciggy in
and then-
between races. You can just lean over and spark them.
And then
Fine.
the VTX. Where is it?
Is that separate as well?
Back on the solo.
That goes in the balance plug. There's just two I can't see them, but just two flying wires.
This is what
See, this
I
is
would
starting to
be
look like one of
if I-
Tony's planes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm beginning to wonder now if he had to take the battery out more than a couple of times in the whole day, whether he'd have just destroyed the plane putting it back in.
Exactly.
I might
That's why
have done.
left it in. I think he charged his whole wing.
It was great. It was just like going for
Yeah.
a pit stop. You just plug it back in and away you go. Hope it doesn't
Wow.
explode.
I hope the VTX wire doesn't fall out mid lap.
Yeah. I did think it might.
Like,
Live on
don't
the
know.
edge.
Oh, and the VTX has dip switches on it.
Well, of course, I hear all the best ones do these days.
Yeah,
And
at
so
least
does
you know
my
what
goggle
channel you're on.
You like to keep the work and the pleasure well separated. Then the work is all cutting edge, but
Yeah.
pleasure very retro by comparison.
Well, this works. Like this works better than any of my quad setups. So why would I change it?
Fair enough.
I mean, I have converted most of my quads to XT60, to be fair, but that's only because the batteries have died over time, and I'm just replacing with new ones. And I'm like, well, might as well just use XT60s now. Saves me from changing all the connectors every time I buy a battery.
So what's my next thing? XT150? Is that a thing?
I think you'd have to go up to Anthanol connectors after XT90, wouldn't you? I don't know if there's
Well,
anything else.
Tony won't, because me and Tony can't spell that. So we'll never be able to buy them.
Google, how do you spell?
There is an
What did you
XT150.
say?
Is there?
Yeah,
What?
Oh, I don't know.
There
Really?
is an XT150.
yeah.
I've got to look that up.
Chunky Monkey.
Did I
exactly
make
the
that
same.
up, or is there
Boringly
an
similar.
XD just a bit bigger?
It's got a bit more of a recessed terminal by the looks of it, so obviously you don't get the sparking problems.
and it can
The
take more
terminals are
amps.
sunk into the plug. Yeah.
Okay, well it's XD150. I'm gonna be using.
It's what you want, man. Treat it a challenge. Buy one of them and see if you can fuse it.
Probably will.
We should
I'll give it a go.
probably start wrapping up, I think.
No worries. I'm sorry I've been so quiet. I've just been waiting for the painkillers to kick in.
Oh, jeez. Hang in there, dude.
I know, just my insides. Anyway, thank you for listening to Let's Drone Out. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you, major thank you to our Patreons who are scrolling across the bottom. We would not be able to do the show without you guys. And thank you all, everyone who showed up. And that's been Andrew/Frank,
Bye.
Stephen,
Goodbye.
everyone's favourite curry kitten,
Goodbye.
the mofo Chris Mofo G,
See you later.
keeping it street, and my darling, lovely wife Tony.
Bonjour.
Will you be back next week, or are you busy?
We'll see.
We'll see. I've been bright till I fly. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Bye.